4.3 is here, and that means we're getting two new artifact sets, one that improves geo units and one that buffs healers. Wait, didn't we already get something like this before? In this video, I'll be talking about these sets, what they do, their pros and cons, and who can best utilize them. I will give my initial thoughts on them and show some rough calculations to show some numbers. Here is a quick key to look over which will help you identify the artifact stats I label throughout the video, and here are some general rules I have for calculations to help keep my numbers as simple as possible. The numbers I present are just one general example, and the value of each set can easily be shifted based on your substats, weapon choice, or team comp. All thoughts I share here are just my opinions. This video is not meant to convince you to farm or not farm for these sets. It's more of a, if you are going to farm for the set, who can best use it type of video. Take the information I provide and make your own decisions on whether you're going for these sets or not. In the description, I have a list to all of my disclaimers, as well as links and credits to the music used. You can also find some of my social media accounts. Without further ado, let's hop in. The first set is called Nighttime Whispers in the Echoing Woods. I'll call it Night for short. It has a 2-piece effect of giving an 18% attack bonus, and the 4-piece effect will give the user a 20% geo damage bonus for 10 seconds after using a skill. If the user is protected by a crystallized shield, they will gain an additional 30% bonus, totaling up to 50% geo damage. Based on the stats provided here, this is meant to boost the damage of characters who are both attack scaling and geo damage dealers. The first one that comes to mind is Navia, naturally. Given that the set is releasing at the same time as her, it's safe to assume it was made for her. Her skill allows you to pull in crystallized shards and collect them to boost her damage. Naturally, pulling in shards will cause her to create crystallized shields and she can easily gain the full bonus. Due to the fact that her talent multipliers aren't officially out, I can't show you calculations. The second character that's going to benefit from this is Ningguang. For a long time, she was in the unfortunate situation of not having a best 4-piece set, but with this new set, she can gain a massive buff from it. The Husk of Opulent Dream set was okay on her, but since she wasn't defense scaling, a very large portion of the effects didn't work on her. Many people just ran an attack percent and geo damage 2-piece combo for her, but with this new set, this damage is a massive boost from her usual DPS. Next up is Noelle. For my assumed calculations, I looked at a C6 Noelle with a C0 Goro in a triple Geo team, and one elemental unit for Crystallize. Interestingly, she does have more personal damage with this new set. However, the increase is pretty minimal, and the set you choose will likely be down to substats. Her healing and shielding will take a slight dip with the new set due to the loss of defense stats. There's also the fact that Husk can work in both Mono Geo and a Crystallized comp, while Knight can only work in a Crystallized comp. If Noelle and Itto have the same type of damage kit, does that mean the same conclusion stacks up for Itto? The answer is technically yes. I ran the same set build as I did Noelle and the same team comp, and found the numbers to be similar once again. I have the same conclusion as I do Noelle. Knight provides more personal damage, but it's slightly limited in what team comps you can run. Geo Traveler can also make use of this set pretty well. I don't think it'll really increase their viability in the roster, but considering the fact that they're not a defense scaler, they'll definitely make better use out of this set instead of Husk. In a similar sense in Ningguang, they didn't have a good 4-piece option, but with this set you can make much better use out of their kit. When it comes to Albedo and Goro, I didn't bother calculating. Their main damage source doesn't have attack scaling, so I predicted that this new set would actually perform worse since they don't really use the 2-piece bonus. For Zhongli, we can safely conclude that the new set would have a much higher personal damage, but that's a completely separate build from its usual HP scaling support, so I also didn't bother running the numbers. For all three of them, we don't even know if the set would even work on them. The phrase protected by a crystallized shield implies the set only works on on-field units, and since most of their damage is off-field, they may not even benefit from the 50% geo bonus. And finally, Yunjin. No, don't even think about it. Overall, I really like how the devs are bringing some power back into geo units and multi-elemental crystallized comps. This set is a pretty good upgrade for some units and a decent side grade for others. Now let's look at Song of Days Past. Admittedly, the main reason I made this video was because of this set. The Geo set is pretty straightforward, but this one sparked a lot of discussion on its usefulness. Song gives the user a 15% healing bonus for the 2-piece effect. Then for the 4-piece, we have all of this. I'll try to summarize it quickly. After the user heals, they'll start a 6-second timer that measures their healing and overhealing up to a max of 15,000. When that timer ends, they give the on-field unit a buff that increases their base damage for any attack by 8% of the overall healing, which is a max of 1200 per hit. This damage boost lasts for 5 hits or 10 seconds. Assuming I'm interpreting this correctly, here are some conditions we need to watch out for. Number 1. Hitting the cap doesn't immediately start the damage effect. Even if you hit the cap instantly, you still need to wait 6 seconds until the damage boost kicks in. Secondly, this set should start counting the timer again immediately after providing the damage bonus. So, if your on-fielder is dealing their bonus damage, that means the healer can already start building up points for the next damage bonus. This will be especially good on units that have high healing over time, as they can have multiple waves of the buff. Compared to other support sets, this effect isn't as strong. It's also not as consistent as those sets, but there are some reasons why you may use this set over another. The first is that this set is more flexible. Noblesse and Tenacity only work in attack scaling teams, while Deepwood only works in Dendro teams. This new set, however, does work in any team comp. Second, if a unit is already running a set like Noblesse, Tenacity, or Deepwood, then you might consider running this on another unit to boost the team's damage and avoid repetition. I want to go through every healer and explain how well they can use the set, and whether I would recommend using this set on them. For starters, I will not be talking about units that have constellations for healing, like Zhongli or Goro. I will also not be showing any units who have some form of off healing, like Kaya or Xingqiu. When I show my calculations, it will be primarily to show if they can reach the cap in 6 seconds. And finally, understand that even if I say this set is good on a character, it may still get beaten out by Noblesse, Tenacity, Deepwood, etc. Alright, let's go down the list. Starting off, we have Barbara. She can use this set, but there is a combo you have to do in order to max out the stacks consistently. You need to use her skill, then either do her NA4 combo or a single charge attack. She does an instance of passive healing every 5 seconds to the active character, and doing either one of those attack combos will be enough to heal up to 15,000. You'll need to swap into her every 6 seconds or so to build up the next bonus, which might be a no-go for some rotations. If your rotation is strict, you can use her burst and get an instant stack. Just keep in mind that this is only possible once every 20 seconds, and that you'll need enough ER to get it back on cooldown. I would say it's a good set, but it's somewhat conditional in terms of team rotations. Noelle. I ran the numbers, and with her healing, she can max out the stack in about 3 or 4 hits, depending on what artifact main stats you use on her. I am showing the numbers depending on whether you're going for a damage hybrid build or a pure support build. Overall, Husk just seems a lot more viable. For starters, it provides up to 54% defense, and this boosts Noelle's other utility. Running Song only boosts her healing, and she ends up losing out on the boost to her shield and personal damage. Additionally, Noelle isn't really meant to be played as a pure support unit. Her identity with her kit makes playing her as an on-field damage dealer the best way, and it wouldn't be ideal running her in a rotation where she swaps in, heals a bit, then swaps out for another damage dealer. Compared to Husk, the higher defense and geo damage not only improve all of her kit, but its bonus is much more consistent. It can boost every hit of damage, whereas Song can only boost 5 hits every 6 seconds or so. Bennett. I didn't bother running calculations on Bennett here. The main reason is that he completely stops healing once the active unit goes above 70% HP. This will lead to a lot of inconsistencies, and if your team is staying above 70% for the most part, he won't even be able to use the buff. Jean. Jean is a character with an instance of front-loaded healing to your whole team, then smaller instances over a shorter period of time. I'm not particularly fond of this set being used on her. As mentioned before, the front-loaded healing doesn't start the effect early, so we are still basing it on overall uptime. This burst lasts for 10 seconds, and in the second wave it will only heal 4 times. The first wave will immediately max out the stack due to the front-loaded healing, but the second wave will not. I would recommend you stick to Viridescent. There is an argument to be made that it can be viable in a mono-animo team where VV is useless. Qiqi. In a similar sense to Barbara, running her as a pure on-fielder would warrant the clamp set more, and using her skill to passively heal is too low. The big difference comes from her burst. This burst allows you to heal when you hit an opponent with the talisman, and this can occur every second, so uptime is very good. The burst lasts for 15 seconds, and the cooldown is 20. And you can easily fill in that gap with her A1 passive and her on-field skill healing. When you first cast her skill, you need to do a quick N5 combo to max out the limit and then swap off to the next character. I don't think it'll be good enough to make her a must-pick in teams, and you'll still need a lot of ER to use her burst consistently, but this is a nice buff to her, and you might consider using this if your Qiqi is more off-field. Diona. She provides 2 waves of the effect, and as we can see, it's not quite enough to reach the cap, even with full healing on the artifacts. You might be able to get enough HP in order to reach the limit via subsets or using an HP bow like Recurve, but you still have to make sure that you have enough ER to burst on cooldown. Still, this set can be viable in non-attack teams. Sayu. Similarly to Jean, she has an initial burst of healing and then intermittent healing over time. The burst lasts for 12 seconds, which means you get 2 waves of damage bonuses. Additionally, if you want to have a 3rd wave in the downtime, Sayu's A1 passive is capable of healing a decent amount within 6 seconds, but you need to be on field with her, which some team comps might not have the luxury for. At C0, it may not reach the limit unless your substats are good, but at C6, an EM build can reach the cap for both her burst and passive. Vivi is still a better option, but she can make use of the set for a mono Anemo comp. Kokomi. If you play her like I do, and use her as an on-fielder for her burst, stick to Clam. This burst window has a much higher damage output than Song, but with Song, around 4 to 5 hits of her autos should be enough to max out the cap. If you play her just for her skill, that healing should be enough to max out the cap within the 6 seconds. Assuming you time the rotations and have enough ER to burst at the right time, you can trigger her A1 passive, which resets the duration of her skill, and effectively gets 100% uptime on the skill. Kuki. Interestingly, Kuki has very good synergy with the set. Based on my minor calculations, full EM will not have enough healing to give close to the maximum buff, but using HP and healing pieces should be enough to reach that threshold. Using a hybrid build doesn't seem like the best option, and you might have to pick between one or the other, Hyper Bloom DPS or healer support. If there's one major incentive to using this set, she has 100% uptime, especially at C1. Dori. I know she gets a lot of hate in Genshin, but genuinely speaking, she is a very good contender for the set. Similarly to Diona, she can heal every 2 seconds for 12 seconds. This means she'll have 2 waves of the set bonus, and if you have C6, you can play her on field to fill in the downtime of her burst. From what I calculated, it seems her overall healing on both her burst and C6 hits can max out the cap on all 3 waves, and this is one of the lower HP builds that uses both an ER weapon and Sands. This effectively means you don't need that much HP to reach the cap. You have nearly 100% uptime given that you're willing to play her on field for a few seconds in the 3rd wave. Yao Yao. She has very good uptime on the healing, and her burst is able to get to the limit pretty quickly, but her healing with just the skill and A4 passive may be right below the limit at talent level 8. These are the numbers using Favlands, and if you use something like Rightful Reward or have good HP substats, this may be enough to reach the limit. Additionally, at C6, she throws out these Mega Radishes that heal for 7% of her HP, and that'll be enough to get over the limit. There is, however, one more caveat to this set. Unless your active character is low or you are close enough to the enemy, you can't guarantee that every hit of her skill will heal you. This means that you might lose out on consistency. Overall, it's still a good choice. You'll just have to keep positioning in mind to get the full amount of healing for her. Mika. He has good uptime on his burst, however, the intermittent healing after the first wave is pretty low, and not enough to reach the limit. At C1, you can fit in another hit of healing, but even still, that won't be enough. Overall, he can't really use it that well in the 2nd and 3rd wave. Baizhu. His overall uptime on this set will basically be 100%, but there will be a lot of inconsistencies with the effect bonus since his abilities don't perfectly line up with the 6-second timer. His burst may not be enough to get the full effect, but if you use the skill, there will be enough to instantly cap out the limit. Charlotte. I didn't bother calculating her healing because of one factor. Her healing from both her burst and C1 take effect in the first 6 seconds. That means you will only get 1 wave of the effect every 20 seconds, and that's already not good uptime. She does have extra healing at C6, but it has a low multiplier, can only heal the on-field unit, and has a pretty long cooldown, so it won't be nearly enough to reach the cap by itself. Last but not least, Chevreuse. Officially we know that she has healing, but we don't know the details on how much she heals, how long it lasts, or how often each tick is. However, the mere fact that she heals already means that she might be able to use the set. From what I can tell, this set favors units that heal constantly over a longer period of time. I think one buff that would have been a great addition was that the damage buff would instantly start if the user maxed out the limit. It would make front-loaded healers like Jean, Barbara, and Charlotte have a leg up. Alright, that's all for this video. Will I be farming this domain? Yes, absolutely. I'm going to go for Navia, so of course she's going to get this set. I finally want to get my Ningguang a 4-piece set instead of her Gladiator Petra combo. And as for the healing set, I like variety. A lot of my units already have Noblesse or Deepwood, so even if it performs worse, I want to try this out on a few other healers like Baiju, Chi-Chi, Dori, and Chevreuse. Let me know in the comments what you think of these sets and who you'd consider farming it for. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to support the channel. I'll see you all next time. Bye!